Hello and welcome to Haven Writers Guild first author interview. Today we have Elizabeth Calder, a South Australian author who has 2 books published, which I will let her tell you all about. And today we're going to be talking about Liz's journey as a writer. So, with no further ado, Liz.
Hi.
Hi, how are you going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so glad you could be here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So,
Yes.
tell us about your actual work so far.
Okay, no worries. So I've had 2 books published with Ark House Press, who are a Christian publisher, and they're part of a trilogy. So we've got Shamira Warrior and Shamira Queen as well. So it's been so long since I've written them, or at least it feels like it. But they're basically a bit of an allegory, I suppose, for the spiritual battle, and ties in a lot of faith aspects and just kind of things that we struggle with day to day. But I find in fantasy, you can kind of talk about those things a bit more openly and almost a bit more, like it comes across a bit more subtly. Yeah. So it's not quite as in your face as something that might be set in real life and in the real world and all that kind of thing. So these books are set in the world of Lutaris, which is a very special place, separated by seasons, and there's different creatures and elves and fairies and all that kind of thing. So it is, it's got a lot of fantastical elements, but then underlying all the time is that spiritual battle. Yeah.
Beautiful. So the Shamira books have taken Adelaide by storm a bit, because the heroine is this really strong female character who is wildly unpredictable and passionate and the sort of woman you want to follow. So I love these books and I highly recommend them. Get your hands on them. You can order them online.
You can.
And so the first 2 books have been published. The 3rd is in the works.
Yes, very slowly. So I may have got a little bit distracted.
We're getting married. And,
yeah, that's right.
Happens.
Yeah. But also, I almost don't feel ready to write the 3rd yet.
Okay.
And the 2nd book as well, it's good because it does tie up a lot of loose ends. It does almost give you that sense of a happily ever after with something perhaps still to come.
Yeah.
So I think the first 2 books on their own are still like satisfactory for the reader.
Yeah.
And then I think the 3rd book is just going to be a dessert, really. I think that despite not having the 3rd book, you can get a real sense of the story.
Yeah, you still have to write the 3rd book.
Thanks. As I said, I just haven't felt ready, basically.
Yeah, okay.
So I took a break from Shamira to write a chick lit novel called Miss Adelaide, which is currently with Wakefield Press. And
that's your name on Instagram, is it?
Yes.
Miss Adelaide, yeah.
That's it.
Perfect.
Yeah. And now I'm working on something completely different again.
Nice.
No, it doesn't.
So, why do you write?
Why do I write?
Yeah. Where did it start?
Okay. Probably starts from when I was a child and being read to at night.
Yeah.
So before I could read, my dad used to read fairy tales to me, which essentially is where my love for fantasy came from, was all those fairy tales. But yeah, so every night he used to read to me. And then when I was probably about 10 or 11, I finally convinced them to buy me a computer, which was in this dingy little tin spare room at the back of the house, which would either be really hot or really cold because I had a tin roof. And it was actually situated on a dressing table with a big mirror behind it.
Oh, wow.
So
you could look at yourself while you write.
Yeah, exactly. Because every 11-year-old wants to do that. While she's in her pajamas on a Saturday morning. So I would go in there and I would get into paint and I would draw maps already of my world, which back then was called Enchantopia, Enchanted Paradise. Yeah, which gradually became Lutaris. So that's where the map actually started from, back in those days. And then I would start writing stories about all these different characters, and I think I started off with these twins, and it was of course a girl and a boy because they always are in those stories, and all the adventures that they went on and all that kind of thing. And I had so much fun, and the beautiful thing about it was I never once questioned myself whether I could do it, whether I was good enough, whether I had the time, whether I had better things to do. And so I think starting off with that and starting off with my parents kind of being like, oh yeah, we'll just let her write, was a real gift from them. That they never came in and said, right, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. They just kind of left me to my creative space. And my dad especially then went on to encourage me, and like for every Christmas and birthday, they weren't big gifts, but they were important gifts. There was, might sound silly, but there was Dummy's Guide to Creative Writing. And it actually was brilliant because I knew nothing. And like to start off with that kind of present was amazing. And then the next time he got me like a more advanced book. And then another time he got me like this beautiful notebook and a Parker pen with my name engraved and things like that. So it was constantly, he was constantly giving me encouragement in ways that...
practical ways.
Exactly. Yeah, practical ways.
Yeah. Cool. So if we fast forward to today...
Yes.
Do you have like a routine or a way of setting yourself up now when you get to writing? Yeah,
I do. I have a few quirks. I have a white men's shirt that I like to wear. I don't know why. And I usually wear it with pajama pants or like boxers or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like sleeves rolled up, kind of.
Sleeves rolled up. And it has to be like something I'm swimming in.
Yeah.
So essentially if I put on weight, I have to then go buy an even bigger one so that I'm still swimming in it and it's not tight at all. It kind of feels like I'm dressed for work in a business sense, but then in a relaxed sense as well. And this is going to sound completely bizarre, but it actually helps if I sleep in it the night before.
Okay.
Yeah, so I sleep in it the night before, wake up, get my coffee, go straight to the computer and just go.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one of them.
Okay.
I also use music, so I have a soundtrack for each of my projects and a book of inspiration and ideas and everything because I have to visualize my character.
Okay.
I have to really get to know them before I can write them. So that's pretty much what the book is really getting to know each of the characters and writing down their traits. And
so every time you start a new project, you start a new notebook?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what sorts of things go in that?
Well, at the moment they're GPS coordinates and locations and
nice.
Yeah, and quite often there's star signs and traits of star signs, so that I can get my head around the typical personality traits for that character. And then, so at the moment, for instance, I'm writing a book where she has multiple aliases and she has to dress up like as different people. So she's got wigs, she's got eye contacts and all this different stuff. So my book is essentially this same person throughout, but I've drawn on her face. I've drawn glasses on.
Wow.
I've coloured her hair darker.
Yeah.
Just so I could actually get a visual
of
what this person would look like in that kind of, I guess, get up, and that they look different enough that people would actually not associate them with being the same person.
Wow.
And
so you sketch that?
Yeah, I sketch a little bit. There's actually one that I've gotten a photo of someone that literally drawn glasses on.
Wow.
Yeah, so it looks a little bit creepy. So if anyone found the notebook and as well searched my history on my laptop, they might be a little concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically all in the name of research. Yeah.
Do you try and set out the same kind of a bit of time each day to write?
I try to. So pretty much once my husband goes to work, that's my writing time
Mm-hmm.
until I have to get ready for work, and then I push into it a little bit more until I have about 10 minutes to get ready for work, and then I try and fly out the door on time.
Mm.
So I'm trying to do that, and then when I have a day off during the week, occasionally that happens, I try to give myself at least one full day that I can just sit down and lose myself
Yeah.
in the world that I'm trying to create.
So the notebooks that you're using for a particular project, do you actually
Yeah.
take them with you when you're out and about, or do you take notes on the go?
I take a separate notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a notebook that stays in my bag all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other notebooks that I would feel absolutely lost without are typically on my dining room table for whatever project I'm working on at the time, next to my laptop. So then
It's ready to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you've had 2 books published now.
Yes.
How have you found the publishing industry?
Hard. Yeah, so my first 2 books were published with Artcast Press, and it was under what they call a co-publishing agreement.
Okay.
So basically, as a new author or someone that writes, in their words, it was kind of fiction or children's stories or anything like that, they need a little bit of cash, essentially, to make it worth their while.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's a big flop, then, you know, they have to cut their losses kind of thing.
Right, so it sort of covers things like the cost of actually
producing the book.
book.
Yeah. So the cover design and all that kind of thing, and making it available on certain websites and the ISBN number and all that kind of thing. So so that kind of starts the process.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially it costs me $1,000 per book. So the first one, it was $1,000, and then, yeah, again with the second one. And pretty much like that process, they said that they would market and that they edit to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I didn't find that.
Okay.
So they were great to work with.
Mm-hmm.
On a personal level, they were really great to work with and build relationships with. Unfortunately, on a professional level, my stories weren't very well edited.
Mm-hmm.
And then they weren't really marketed either.
Okay.
So I had to do a lot of that myself.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as royalties go, never saw anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my main profits came from the actual book sales themselves that I personally sold, like at the book launch or afterwards, that people were looking for.
So did you organise your own book launch, or was that something they did as well?
No, I organised it myself.
Okay.
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I kind of took book launches to a new level because I made my first one formal, and it was a bit of a cocktail party almost. But yeah, I love that sort of thing, so I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, so the co-publishing agreement that I had with them, I found really difficult. And in hindsight, I probably wouldn't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great way to start. And one of the good things is that, like, I could pretty much say to them what I wanted for the cover and all that kind of thing, and who I wanted to dedicate it to and all that kind of thing. But essentially, if your book isn't really getting out there, then it is disheartening as much as it's out there in the world.
Yeah.
It's still disheartening to know that it's just not getting very far. Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas with Wakefield Press, for instance, they said online that they didn't have any openings for submissions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, oh, that's okay. I'm just going to go do some Christmas shopping there and just kind of suss them out.
Yeah.
And so I went there and had a bit of a chat to them, pretty much just proposed my idea in a really casual kind of way. And
Hang on. So you went just into the publisher
yeah.
and pitched,
Yeah.
like, just to the reception. Did you get past the receptionist? Like, how did you do that?
Well, fortunately, the girl that was on reception and on the book sales is actually one of the editors.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, her
That's
name's
helpful.
Margot. She's very lovely. And, yeah, so I was pretty much looking around and just like, do you need a hand with anything? And I was just sussing out, really, whether they sold much fiction because they don't really promote it in a lot of their Instagram posts and all that kind of thing. They sell a lot of non-fiction.
Okay.
And beautiful stories and beautiful books. But, I hadn't seen much of my chick lit kind of genre on there. But once I started talking to her and saying that it's about Adelaide and it's to promote Adelaide and it's this romance kind of story that is multicultural and I just kind of went on one of my tangents and she really loved it. And she gave me her card and asked me to send through some details. And one of the most exciting things was when I was at an editing and publishing intensive and Michael Boland from Wakefield Press, the publishing director, I think he is, came in to speak. And I put up my hand and said something about Miss Adelaide, wondering about how they do covers and all that kind of thing. I'm a very visual person. A cover is very important to me. Yeah. And he kind of answered my question, and then later on he mentioned my Instagram account.
Huh.
And part of me kind of got very excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, he actually knows I exist.
Yeah.
And then when I went up to him at the end of the speech, he was just like, oh, so how's the book coming along? Have you sent it to us yet? And so to have that from the director where it's actually kind of made it up to him was really encouraging.
That is encouraging.
And it was actually just from building that relationship with the first person that I saw pretty much. And
having the courage to actually go straight up to the front door.
Yeah.
That helps too. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time when you do actually go onto the websites, a lot of them say, we don't accept unsolicited manuscripts. And it's quite off-putting. But it seems to be that it's one of those right place, right time kind of situations.
Yeah.
Or it can be.
And I think as well, it's kind of to deter people from everyone sending their manuscripts. Because if they said that, we're open, and they would get exactly, like hundreds a day. With that said as well, getting back to the hardship of publishing, at that same intensive, I also pitched the idea to an agent who was there, and I got absolutely slammed for it.
The same idea?
The same idea.
Wow.
Yep. So she basically said that people don't care enough about Adelaide to read about it, that my proposed ending wouldn't give enough satisfaction to the reader, that there had to be sex in the book. There was no question about it.
Okay.
That was one of the prerequisites apparently for chick lit.
Oh, wow.
You can't have something that alludes to it or anything like that or some romance. No, it needs to be in there.
Okay.
So yeah, people, there you go. If you're writing chick lit, that's what this really great agent said. Fortunately, I'm one of those people that doesn't really take a lot of that on board and kind of take what people like that say with a pinch of salt. There were other people there who got the same kind of feedback, and I feel like probably took it really to heart.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I really hope that those people are still continuing to create and to have the courage to put their work out there, despite what they may have been told. But yeah, so more than being disheartening, it was actually more frustrating than anything. Yeah. So that's one of the outcomes, I suppose, of putting your ideas out there. Unfortunately, some people just aren't going to agree with them and they might be quite brutal about it.
It sounds like you're remarkably resilient, though, which is very important.
Yeah.
In being a writer.
Absolutely.
Because feedback comes from all directions. And
that's right.
Yeah, you need to have a thick skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, we'll move on to a similar sort of theme, but so you are essentially an emerging Australian writer. You've had some books published. You've still got stuff in the works. Obviously, we never stop.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask a couple of questions around what do you feel are the main struggles or obstacles that you actually face? Obviously, difficult agents are one of them.
I would say that that's a very minute problem, though. I think one of the biggest external challenges would be time.
Yeah.
Because it's the time that you invest in your project is time that you're essentially taking away from other people that you would typically be investing in, whether that be your husband, your children. And I'm not a mother, but I've heard so many mothers say, you know, I don't have time for this and I don't have time for that. And it's a constant struggle. And like one day, hopefully I will have a family and I'll be able to feel that struggle. But, you know, it is such a big thing, especially I think for women, because we tend to take so much onto our shoulders and try to multitask and we don't quite compartmentalize things as much as men do, which I'm so jealous of. We've constantly kind of got that thing in the back of our mind that we've got so much to do and we've got to-do lists and everything. But I heard Liz Gilbert say in a podcast recently that you don't find time, you make time. And that is so true.
So, yeah. Because
between jobs and family and trying to just stay on top of life and housework and make sure that there's food in the fridge, you know, like they're necessities that can take up quite a lot of your time. Making time for your art, whatever it is, whether it's writing or whether it's painting or whether it's photography, it is so important. But that seems to be the thing that our society especially is so poor on, and it's a currency that you never get back.
And it's very hard to justify spending such precious amounts of time on being creative.
Exactly.
Which is not really seen as a good use of time
by
a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, and even ourselves, we can actually find it difficult to justify sitting down and actually spending time writing.
Yeah.
When there's little to show for it at the end of it, except for, you know, a few more words and a feeling of fulfillment of having done that. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. So I would say that's the biggest thing is just having the time to invest in it, and as far as internal struggle would be the guilt over that.
Yeah.
Like, and also the insecurity that maybe this isn't good enough, and which plagues us all the time, and we keep saying it, but it's one of the biggest things that you have to overcome on like a daily basis as a creator. Like, you constantly have to empathize with yourself from the day before and be like, yeah, do you know what you wrote was crap yesterday, but it's okay because you can fix that, and it's better to fix a first draft than to not have a first draft.
Exactly. And don't give up.
Exactly.
Just because it's not what you wanted or what you hoped it would be.
And no one is ever, unfortunately, going to sit down and write a perfect first draft from start to finish. Like, it's just not going to happen. No. So those would be my biggest challenges. Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful. All right, well then, I guess the flip side of that, how do you feel that you have actually made ground? Have you made ground? Have you overcome any of those? Have you had any victories?
I suppose getting that slice of time in the mornings is a victory.
Yeah.
And it's purely just because my husband has to go to work crazy early, which I feel really bad for him. But the fact that he leaves at 6 a.m. in the morning and then it's just me and our 3 cats and the kettle and my laptop is just perfect.
Yeah.
Like, so I can at least get an hour where...
Oh, what a great way to start the day.
Yeah, where I'm not answering questions about dinner or who I'm working with or, you know, anything else, that I can actually just lose myself in my work for an hour. And to know as well that I don't have all day, I only have that hour. So that both kind of applies pressure, but it also applies release, that there's an end time, that after that hour, you have to get ready and go to work. Yeah. So this isn't enforced on you all day.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it isn't the pressure for you to perform and to write your best work in that hour, even if it's research, even if it's looking up GPS coordinates, like, or drawing sketches of characters. It's still a step towards that project and immersing yourself in that project on a daily basis.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than a writer who doesn't get a chance to write.
Exactly.
Because we become a little bit difficult if we don't
Yeah.
get our time to actually be creative.
Exactly.
It's like trying to keep the lid on a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually, in regards to what I said before about the time aspect, my husband now tells me, like, you need some writing time, and when are you writing this week? Have you written this week? Because he knows that it's actually better for both of us if I get that time.
Yeah.
I'm a much easier person to live with once I've had that creative outlet.
Do you feel, now that you've actually got 2 books under your belt and they're sitting on shelves and they're out there for people to buy, do you actually feel more confident in your choice to be a writer?
Not because of those,
Okay.
I don't think. Because when I look at these books, and this might be something that's really quite sad, but when I look at them, I very rarely see what's good there.
Mm.
And I think that's just what we do as humans. We just always see the flaws, like, especially when you look in the mirror. But, like, it's just, all I remember are, like, the places where there's a full stop missing after this certain word. And I actually know exactly where it is. And there's a misspelled word there, and things that, if I had a great editor, like, you know, who butchered it. But it's, you know, that's kind of, I see them as a bit of a learning tool, almost, and a step towards something. And when people say that they've enjoyed them, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many people, and young girls especially, which I did not expect.
Yeah.
Like, one of my friends has an 11-year-old daughter. I'm pretty sure she's 11. And she loved them.
Oh.
And she, like, pretty much swallowed them up in one day. Like, it was just so encouraging. And, you know, they skip past all those things that I'm talking about because they're so engrossed in the story. Same with one of my cousins. She's actually a teacher, and you would think that a teacher would pick up spelling mistakes, and she didn't. Not a single one. And not saying that there's a copious amount of them, but yeah, so it's just those kind of things are so encouraging when people lose themselves so much in the story.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for me, when I see them on the shelf, it's kind of like, okay, so that's my starting point, and I can only move up from there.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I see when I look at them. So I don't think they necessarily give me the confidence to be a writer. I think that's more so just come to me as, I think sometimes you have those moments when you've written something and you actually don't know where that's come from, and you read it back, and it's that magical moment. Like, it happened the first time it happened. First time I experienced it was my first year at Tabor College, and I was writing The Problem with Sunflowers.
Okay.
It's a short story that was published in their anthology 2016.
Okay.
I think it was. And I sat down, and it was actually for, I think, a writer's group assignment or something like that. And we got given the title, and we had to make up a story. And I just thought, I'll just start it like this, and then I'll just do that, and then I'll just do that. And then all of a sudden, the story just took over.
Yeah.
And I literally finished it in one sitting, one draft, sent it to my lecturer, who then replied, and he's just like, are you serious? You just knocked this out this morning?
Oh, wow.
And that moment there, that was that sweet, magical, like, moment of enchantment that I just got completely lost, tears in my eyes, everything, and just, it was just beautiful. that was the first time I realised that I was a writer.
Wow.
And before that, like before I even went to table, I had finished a complete manuscript, unpublished, sitting at the bottom of my drawer somewhere. But you know, so I used to write every Saturday morning. When I was home at night time, I would like make up my world and all that kind of thing. So it's not that I wasn't writing, because I was doing it all the time, but it wasn't until I felt it that I could call myself a writer. And I had so many moments of that writing these books. And again with Miss Adelaide, and again with Spectrum, which is what I'm working on at the moment. There have been those moments where you've just kind of hit that sweet spot and the writing actually takes over. And at the end of the day, I can actually say to Daniel, I'm like, do you know, the book surprised me today? Yeah. Like, I didn't know it was going that way. Yeah. And that is actually what makes me feel like a writer. That moment where you're taken to another world. That's fantastic. And completely transported. Yeah. And then when you transport back, you're just like, oh my gosh. It's so good. That was amazing.
Being able to lose yourself so completely in where you're taking this character or the world there's nothing else like it.
No. And I think that's an important way to think of yourself as a writer as well, because books on a shelf is kind of the world's way of looking at you as a writer, you know, and it's like that quote that so many bumper stickers and stuff say, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail, right? Yeah. But the author, Brene Brown? What's her name? Brene Brown, yes, author of Wild. She wrote this beautiful, completely reconstruction of that question, and it says, what's worth doing even if you fail? And
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think, and even in that context, that's failure to the world's standard. Yeah. You know, and it's, so I think the world's way of looking at failure, and the world's way of looking at success, and the world's way of looking at how many books do you have on your shelf that have your name on it, all that kind of thing, I think we need to completely sever ourselves from that, and not to identify ourselves with that. Yeah. Because I could just put these on my shelf and just be like, oh, I'm a writer. I wrote those 2 books. Yeah. I don't write anymore because, you know, I've done those 2 books. Yeah. But and they've done that. Yeah. Whereas that's not the reason, you know, and if your work never gets published, it's okay, because some projects are just meant for you. Some projects are meant to stay in the drawer because you wrote them, it was therapeutic, it was healing, or it was exciting, or whatever, but it's a time capsule of what you were going through at the time, and if you don't feel right to share that with the world, that's okay. That can be left in the drawer, and maybe you'll write something else that is ready to be shared with the world. But regardless, you're still creating something. You're still an artist. You're still living a creative life, and you're still reveling in big magic, which is the most important thing ever.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we might leave it there, I think, but thank you so much for sharing this part of your journey with us.
Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to what happens next.
Yeah.
Keep us posted.
I will. Absolutely.
Thank you.